Hello, everybody. Welcome to Fast Money Football. I'm your host, Albert Vartanian. And listen, I never thought I'd be hosting a soccer show the day after Canada qualified for the World Cup. And I certainly didn't think I'd be doing it with a legend of Canadian soccer media and James Sharman. James, I know you don't like to hear those things, but it's true. And I think this moment is not only for players and fans, but for people like you who've been there since the beginning, been there through the tough times, because there's been a lot of that. There hasn't been a lot of this. So my first question is your initial reaction at the final whistle yesterday.
Yeah, well, thanks, mate. That's nice comments. Yeah, well, watching sports for a living, for a career, it's not bad.
No.
But anyway, you know what, man? I mean, it was raw emotion, wasn't it? Really, this moment that we've all been waiting for so long, and at times thought would never happen. Finally happens in front of a full stadium full of red shirts. You rewind, you know, 15, 20 years ago, 25 years ago, and they wouldn't have been red shirts in that stadium for a World Cup qualifier against Jamaica or any country. I think the feeling was that, man, I think we've arrived. We've done it now. We've got to a World Cup in a football culture. That's what it felt like yesterday. All this hard work from these players, from the staff, and from everyone involved, I think it just felt a big sense of relief and a big sense of, yeah, we did it despite the naysayers for so many years saying that it wouldn't happen. Canada's accomplished and got to the promised land.
A lot of moments stood out for me yesterday, and I had the pleasure and the honor of actually being there as a media member. Got to be on the field and got to see the players celebrate, some of the former players. But one moment that really stood out to me, and I think you talked about this earlier today on a different show, but I was there when Craig Forrest was doing his interview with Arash Madani for Sportsnet, and he just broke down in tears. And I wasn't emotional at all. I didn't think I would be at all. But then I saw that, and it really hit me because it showed me how much it actually means to people who've been through this since the beginning. Is there a moment that stood out to you?
It was a great moment. That was it too, I think, because I've known Craig for many years. He's a good friend, and I know how much he loves Canadian football and how much he's been battling against, the naysayers and sometimes people within the industry trying to get this game coverage, and to see his reaction. And he's quite embarrassed about it, which he shouldn't be, because it was just one of those raw moments of really authentic emotion, right? And he couldn't believe it himself. So that was definitely a moment. And just, when the Atiba chants started, that was pretty amazing too, right? Once he came on in the second half, a guy that's been there, he's been there in the worst times possible. The 8-1 in San Pedro Sula, a guy that's plied his trade overseas successfully, has never got the love from the Canadian sporting market he deserves. One of the biggest crimes in Canadian sports is the fact that that guy hasn't won, Canada's top athlete. He should have done on numerous occasions. Just a great ambassador for the game. Those chants, that respect. There were just so many moments. I mean, this whole qualifying campaign has been moments. Hearing John Herman post-match saying, "We are a football culture. We've done it." I love it. I mean, what an occasion. It's one of the great moments. I had the privilege of standing and talking with Stephen Brunt throughout the entire match and post-match. And Stephen, I mean, like, he's been there. He's covered the biggest moments in Canadian sports his whole career. And he says, it's up there with the Donovan Bailey. He's up there even with the Ben Johnson at the time, the Vancouver Olympics. This is very much on that eye to eye with those enormous moments in our history, and how in many ways it goes past any hockey accomplishment because it's global. It isn't so insular, which is what hockey is. So yeah, what a day, what an occasion. And hey, we're just starting, Albert. That's the fun part, right? Yeah. I mean, you don't really, in most cases, look back on qualifying campaigns once the World Cups kick off, right? This is just beginning. The fun part's coming, right? in November. I mean, that's just so exciting.
Yeah, a lot of work to do still. And I think the real work will start once that World Cup draw comes out and Canada knows where they're going to be in which group. And let's get into that. I was going to touch on another moment we can get back to it, but let's talk about the draw. Obviously, people want an easy route into the knockout stages. But for me, when it comes to the World Cup, those teams are there for a reason. And it's going to be difficult no matter who's in the group, if it's a group of death or if it's not a group of death. I think Canada, it'll benefit Canada if they play better teams and they play the European and the South American powerhouses. And it's just good for us to see. Who doesn't want to see, Messi play against Canada? But for you, how do you want this to play out for Canada?
Give me a group of death, honestly.
I'm with you.
And yeah. I want the worst group possible, that all the eyeballs of the entire world is on our group. How great would that be? Right? I mean, yeah, I mean, listen, we can argue about getting a weak group and maybe progress into the round of 16 or beyond. Can you imagine that? But no, to me, it's the first World Cup. This team can capture the imagination of this World Cup. Every year there's one team. I reflect back on Cameroon back in the day, when they were just the world's darlings for the way they played in 1990 and the charisma and character of those players. Canada can be that team, but they've got to play big teams. And, we've seen this team boss CONCACAF, which is a weakened CONCACAF. I want to see them play the very best in the world. So for the first World Cup since '86, I want to see this team really challenged. Let's see where they're at. Let's find out. Because don't forget, after the World Cup, there'll be a Gold Cup next year. There's Nations Leagues. There's trophies to be won. Let's just see where this team actually is on the world stage. So give me the worst group possible. Give me Germany. Who's in pot two? I haven't even got the pots in front of me, but you know what I mean? I want to see the hardest. France. Give me a France. How great would that be? Incredible.
I'm with you. I'd love to see them in a group of death. And just because they potentially are in a group of death doesn't mean they can't get through the group. I mean, if we go back, I think it's 2014, right, James? Costa Rica, CONCACAF team topped their group. I know they bounced out England. I think Italy and Uruguay were both in that group as well.
Yeah. It can happen, right?
It can happen. They went all the way to the quarterfinals. And this Canadian team is a very good team. And there could be more players coming. And we can see a very different 11, I think, come, the beginning of the World Cup.
And you cover this team. You've spoken to John Herdman and these players. They are not the kind to enter a tournament thinking, it's nice to be here. Right? No, they're going to go and try and win the damn thing, right? Which sounds ridiculous, and Canada's not going to win the World Cup, but that'll be their mentality, though.
Yeah,
right. That's what John Herman will put that to his players. He's probably done it already, actually. Say, to hell with just qualifying. Let's make some noise in this World Cup. Let's get out of this group. Let's see how good we really are. I mean, I just think that alone is just fantastic. That swagger we keep talking about with this team. They never believe they're out of contention against whoever they play, and that'll be the case at the World Cup too. They'll enter that thing with so much confidence and momentum that who knows, anything's possible, right?
Yeah, and about a year ago, I mean, it would be ridiculous to say that Canada would qualify for a World Cup, let alone Canada can finish top of the CONCACAF group. Did you see that post by Gareth Wheeler? It was about a year ago. John Herdman had the Toronto Star mock up the front of the paper saying, "We made it. We're going into Qatar." So he's had that belief for over a year. He's instilled this in the team. So you're right. I don't think they're going to go to the World Cup and just make up the number. They're going to go there to perform.
Yeah, 100%. That's why they've been so successful. And I love the fact that Wheels found that paper, because that's been rumored to be around for a while, right? That thing he showed the team early on. Amazing. And you wonder the reaction from those guys. I mean, he had them believing from day one, that first day of training camp. But that's some modern player management, those kind of things, right? And they can backfire as well, but they didn't. It seems everything John Herdman touches turns to gold right now, right? He can say what he wants, and they're going to be okay. Who was it said post-match? Was it Carl Laren? Forget who it was now. Said, when he talks, I want to run through a wall for him, right? He's an incredible leader. So yeah, there's no way. If he senses anyone on that squad, doesn't really believe in themselves, or won't be entering the World Cup to go far, they won't be picked. As simple as that, right? That he has aspirations to really make some big noise and be that team for the first World Cup of this generation. And then moving forward, they won't be taken lightly. So maybe there's an opportunity that the big teams will take Canada lightly. Let's hope so.
Yeah, he's a special person. And another moment I want to talk about from yesterday was Herdman actually broke through the security and came to the media and he looked at all of us and was like, "We made it. We're in the World Cup." And, he started hugging some of the media and propping everybody. And he was asked, what does this mean to you? And he goes, everything. And he got kind of emotional. He turned around. For John Herdman, no one, at least I don't think, no one has gone from the women's national team and has been that successful and now come to the men's national team and taken them to the World Cup. I think he must be one of the first to do that.
He's the first, first to ever take the women's and the men's team of the same country to the World Cup, yeah.
Now, how important is he to this program? Because I think he's single-handedly the most important.
He's everything. Yeah, I think he's one of the most influential Canadian sporting figures ever.
Ever.
I mean, how can we debate that? It's not even debatable. I'm not saying he's number one. He might be, but let's not go that far right now. Let's just consider him, in the Canadian sports scene, one of the most influential of all time, because what he did with the women's program, who were dead last at the World Cup before he took over, dead last. A year later, they're on the podium getting a bronze at the Olympics. He takes over a broken men's team with divisions and cliques in the side, a team that's, been laughed at by the fans for years. And, within 4 years, does what he promised in that opening press conference. Yeah, we'll qualify for Qatar. Remember him saying that? Mm-hmm. And people laughed. Yeah, sure. You'll be in 2026, but not 2022. He said, "Yeah, we'll do it. We can," as the logo says, which by the way is pretty cool. I like
Yeah.
that. Those t-shirts are amazing. So yeah, he's just done it. Everything he says, he's backed up everything. Now I want to see him when he faces some adversity. It's coming at some point with this team. They haven't won every game, right? They bowed out in the semi-finals of the Gold Cup with a weakened team, which has still felt like a championship win, didn't it?
Yeah.
There was a Gold Cup before then, which they didn't play very well at all. So he's faced a little bit, but it's going to come. What I find interesting is right now this big celebration, and we are allowed to own it and enjoy this right now this week. But pretty soon we're going to be judging this team purely from football and
Yeah.
how they perform, and take them seriously like we would take any other sporting team in Canada, right? So the celebration, the gloss, the fluff's great and all, but it's going to come to an end pretty soon when we start judging this team, going forward, and that's going to be interesting to see how John Herdman and that group react.
So, James, I just want to transition a bit. There are a lot of fans and a lot of new fans. There's going to be more new fans jumping on the bandwagon, which I think is completely fine. I love that. I think we need to grow this program as much as possible. But being a person in the media, do you think with all the new fans coming in and maybe not being as knowledgeable about the sport of soccer, should there be an emphasis on, teaching the game to these fans?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I suppose to on some platforms. I think people that tune into fast money football know their stuff.
Yes.
Right? Right?
Yeah.
And I've always said for my whole career, you can't talk down to the audience. You
Right.
to respect their level of IQ. And the Canadian soccer fandom, the hardcores, they know their stuff, right? But you're right. There's a bunch of new fans coming in, jumping on this bandwagon, which I agree. The bandwagon's got plenty of space for you. There's going to be people out there complaining, saying, "Well, I watched the Toronto Lynx play back in the early '90s. I deserve this. You don't." No, 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 no. With this team, and John Herdman has opened the doors to the public, right? And now we should welcome them in and learn about this great sport. So I guess there'll be some areas where we can educate to a certain point, but I still like to kind of appeal to the hardcores as far as your stuff. You're not going to be fooled by us. So
Right.
let's keep it on that level.
Yeah, and people just learn along the way, right? The more you tune into something, the more you watch something, you just learn. It's almost osmosis. Let's talk about the game that's coming up on Wednesday against Panama. After all this, it feels like the end of the road heading into the World Cup, but it's not. They have this other game against Panama. For John Herdman and the rest of the team, how do you approach this game?
Yeah, I mean, it's really interesting. You can certainly, I guess, you could blood some talent. I mean, they want to finish first, right, and accomplish that other goal. They're not going unbeaten. They just missed out on that, so they want to finish in first. And quite frankly, they should finish in first, I would think. Anyway, Panama's got nothing to play for. They weren't great yesterday. Let's be honest. They got smashed. But I think he can still put a good enough squad, good enough team out there. Maybe you don't see a Tiba. I know he didn't start this past week either. Maybe Vittoria missed the first two games. Maybe has given the window off. I still think, though, they want to be a competitive team, and they'll be focused and they'll be up for the match for sure. But I'd love to see Ishmael Kone get a start. I mean, he's just great when he came on. No one knows who this kid is. Let's start building that hype train, shall we, right now? So you might see some kids come on, but overall, I think he's still going to try and win that match and keep this momentum going. That's really important, right? And throughout the summer, there aren't too many FIFA windows to play games, and learn about each other. So I think it's important to keep that momentum going with a good performance.
Yeah, and let's not forget about pot 3. I don't want to go into it because I'm going to confuse myself and probably confuse you too, James. But essentially, they want to get into pot 3, which would mean they would avoid maybe some more, some of the bigger teams is the way I see it. So I don't know like how big of a deal that really is.
No, well, to me, it's not because, like I said before, I want to see him in I don't care what group it is. Give me the hardest group possible. It's possible they make it still. There's some African matches happening, which will dictate where they're at. Yeah, the fact that we can even talk about pots, it's exciting, right? But I'm not going to be hung up too much in it. I'm not that kind of person. Let's just get everything established, and then Friday for 11 o'clock in that draw, we can sit back and just really thoroughly enjoy it. Give me the worst. Give me Brazil. Give me a Uruguay. Give me Canada, and give me I don't know, an African team, a good African team. I don't know who's in pot 4 right now. No one does, but just whatever.
Everyone pretends like they do. I have no idea.
I know, exactly.
It's very difficult to understand.
We'll find out soon enough, people. Let's stop trying to guess.
Exactly.
Right? We're going to find out soon enough.
Yeah, let's just be happy. We qualified. No pots. Don't worry about the pots. But me and James Sharman, we will be back this week, throughout the week, to talk about Canada against Panama. We'll also tee up the World Cup draw. And Premier League is returning. Club football, I
Hey,
probably forgot about
remember
that.
that?
But it's coming back. I know it's coming back. So we'll talk about all those things throughout this week on Fast Money Football. Make sure you follow James Sharman at James Sharman on Twitter. Follow the Parlay at the Parlay. You can follow me as well at the Real Bert V. Thanks for watching.